Hello, everybody, and today for my movie review of this week, I am doing Thunderbolts, the new Avengers. There's only 3 movies left after this, so let's finally talk about the latest MCU movie before Avengers Doomsday comes out. So, Thunderbolts, I wasn't really too sure about Thunderbolts because it was going to have characters I'm not really too familiar with, but there are characters I really do like in this movie. For example, the Winter Soldier, Yelena. I do like the Red Guardian. U.S. Agent's cool, and I do like Ghost. She finally gets some redemption from Ant-Man and the Wasp, since I felt she was kind of misleading in that movie. And we get the return of Taskmaster, but with a twist. So, this movie was surprisingly really good. It wasn't the best Marvel movie, but it was surprisingly a lot of fun. So, let's talk about it. So, this movie's more about, our characters exploring their deepest insecurities as they are sent on a mission at the same time, and they meet, a new test subject that's been in this facility. His name is Bob, but we find out who he really is later in the movie, and they're all sent by Valentina, who is played by the awesome Julia Darnforest. I'm sorry if I said her name wrong. The lady from Seinfeld. So she sent all of them on their missions, and Yelena's feeling really tired of constantly just going on the same kind of spy missions, and then she just calls it a day. She even kind of expresses this with David Harbour's Red Guardian. But once she does go to the facility, she bumps into a U.S. agent. The last time we saw him, he became the U.S. agent after he failed as Captain America, and then Sam took the mantle and became the new Captain America. And they get into a brawl, and Taskmaster shows up, and then Ghost shows up, and she actually shoots Taskmaster in the head. So I guess this is kind of a way of trolling and responding to fans that didn't really like Taskmaster in Black Widow. I myself did not really care for Taskmaster in this movie. In the Black Widow, the character just didn't really do much for me, unlike the comic book version, or like in Ultimate Spider-Man, where he was one of the villains in that show. But, yeah, surprisingly, that was a pretty bloody scene. Not too bloody. But, during all this, we see the return of the Winter Soldier. He did make a cameo in the Captain America 4. I was thinking he wasn't going to show up in the movie at all, but yeah, he did, just for a brief moment. But in this movie, yeah, he's definitely center stage, for sure. He is still getting used to the world, changing. He's still figuring himself out. He's now part of the Senate, trying to do everything he can for other superheroes in Congress. It's a lot of just political stuff. And he's also starting to befriend Valentina's new secretary or assistant. Her name is Mel. She is super cute in this movie. I do like the actress who plays her. I don't know how to say her name, but yeah, she was surprisingly good in this movie. I like Mel. She's just like this assistant who doesn't really know if she wants to be loyal to Valentina or not. She feels she's just working for her because it pays well, but eventually she does stay with Val. But of course, during all this, they're getting footage of what's going on, and then a bunch of U.S. government people go to this facility as our characters are trying to find a way to escape the warehouse, and they end up sneaking all the way to an elevator that doesn't work, so they have to crawl all their way up there, and they decide to bring Bob. Once they do meet him, they have no clue who he is. Even he doesn't know who he is. And they literally all crouch together, and they slowly climb up the elevator. I thought that scene was hilarious, but they all fall, and then they get back on top with a grapple hook, and then they do escape the facility until a bunch of government people show up, and they actually shoot Bob And this is where we find out he does have powers. He has the ability to cause people to see their worst nightmares or their biggest insecurities. When he touches Yelena, she ends up seeing like one of her friends in the forest that got murdered when she was a little girl. And then he also touches U.S. Agent, who sees that he is not really the best father, as he argues with his wife and his kids just sitting there while he's just scrolling on his phone. But of course, our characters, when they do escape the facility, they go on the run while Bob gets shot down by a bunch of goons. But of course, he survives, and that's where he does show his ability to fly. And he gets captured and taken all the way to New York, where our characters are on the run, but they're still getting chased by the U.S. agents. I don't know why I said it like that, but yeah, this is where we do finally see Bucky do some good action, where he's on a motorcycle. He looks badass per usual, and he manages to save the Thunderbolts when they are rescued by Red Guardian, who is lovable in this movie, by the way. They all get into the van, and I even like how the Red Guardian says they should call themselves the Thunderbolts, because that's what Yelena's old soccer team was when she was a little girl. But once they do escape, they're chased by the government people, and then Bucky shows up, and he takes them down. But of course, he also takes down the limo the Thunderbolts are in, and they're trying to survive, but he manages to detain them, and they are captured. But of course, Bucky is not really sure if he's going to let them go or not. But he gets a call to go from Mel to go all the way back to New York. But this is where we do learn about Sentry's origin. I already spoiled it, but Bob is revealed to be this universe's Sentry. So Sentry is more of an obscure character in Marvel. He's basically Superman, but with different types of powers. He's got like a gold emblem on him. He wears like a yellow outfit. He even gets blonde hair, which is hilarious. He like dyes it from Valentino. And we even learn a little bit about her origin, where she was touched by Bob, and we see when she was younger of who influenced her for the woman that she becomes. And we find out finally who bought Avengers Tower, because as you know, in Spider-Man Homecoming, Tony sold Avengers Tower, and it's revealed that it was sold to Valentina, who now owns the entire building, and she's going to turn this into something completely different. But the Thunderbolts managed to find a way, after getting let go by Bucky. They all decide to team up, and they all go to the new Avengers Tower all the way to New York. And I'm honestly missing some things, since I did rewatch the movie, but there were some parts I missed since I was doing other things. But our characters do meet Val, and they realize that she's still as wicked as she seems, and they all are ready to pull their weapons out. And they're basically the mercenary Avengers, as Valentina's going to call them, the new Avengers. Honestly, I don't know if this really could work as the new Avengers, since the Thunderbolts are basically the Suicide Squad, but with mercenaries that are like, I guess, more deadly. But with the Suicide Squad, it's a bunch of villains that get sent on a mission that basically could get them killed. But our characters, they finally make face-to-face with Sentry, who puts on his costume, and the costume actually looks pretty accurate to how he looks in the comics. They even noticed how he's got blonde hair now. But our characters actually try to fight Sentry after Val tells them to take them down, and they all fail because, you know, he has powers and they don't. Most of them don't have powers, except for Ghost, who can phase. But our characters manage to escape the new Avengers Tower, but this is where Sentry has a new dark side. His powers are basically, he's able to go into a dark form, and he's able to create a new thing that's kind of like the Snap, but basically it's called the Void, where if you get voided, you're forced to watch your deepest, darkest fears. But all our characters decide to argue because they failed as a team, and Yelena just calls them all losers. And she ends up, we could probably get the most relatable scene I can relate to, where Yelena rants to the Red Guardian, still grieving for her, but the Red Guardian assures that she is loved, which is definitely the most relatable scene, as we all fear that we are just lonely and it's hard to find new friends these days. So honestly, I did really like this scene in the whole movie, but the void gets worse as our characters stay hidden, but Yelena notices how the darkness is coming all over New York, and the Red Guardian ends up saving a little girl from getting crushed by rubble, and it turns out she gets voided and then everyone else does, but Yelena gets hit by the void, and we think she's gone, but nah, she's literally just trapped in the world, the void world, where Bob is trapped in as well, his good side, not the evil Sentry side. But our characters decide whether or not they should go in the void or not, but they all decide to go in there anyway, and they managed to go through an entire maze of what was going on, of their deepest, darkest secrets, and they even find Bob's origin, where he was a child, lonely, but they all decide to give Bob a big hug out of respect for him, to calm down, and he's basically now able to unvoid everyone who was voided, and our characters do come back, but they decide to handle Valentina, who has now decided to make our mercenaries the new Avengers. But the movie ends with a post-credit scene where we get like a cereal box. I think this was on the poster, where we got a cereal box version of the characters. But the real post-credit scene is when the new Avengers are now in their new tower, and it turns out Bucky's having issues with Sam because he's now part of a government version of the Avengers, and Sam's not a fan of that because of Civil War. But our characters managed to see a new video footage, what appears to be the Fantastic Four, which is now set up for Avengers Doomsday. So Thunderbolts was definitely a fun movie for sure. I think it really explores the deep insecurities we face every day in our lives, and it shows how we deal with our deepest, darkest fears. So I think this movie is definitely a lot of fun for sure. I'd probably give it like an 8 out of 10. Maybe that's a little too high, since a lot of people were just whatever about this movie. But I certainly enjoyed it. But there's only one MCU movie left, that being the Fantastic Four. There's only, I think, Fantastic Four, and then Avatar 3, and then the big one, the Superman movie. So be on the lookout for that. So anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you all next time.